Hello. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. And this week, I want to talk about something that I addressed a little bit in the Indigo Frequency that I did with Lisa Gunshort earlier this week on Friday. We were talking about the truth and our relationship with the truth. And I thought this was an excellent topic to bring into the end of August as we're going into school, as we're sort of going into fall, as we're getting ready to prepare for the onslaught of the holidays that starts from like Halloween forward, right? All these things that start piling up in our lives that affect us and our relationship with the truth. Makes sense, right? So, truth is a loaded word. It is an enormously loaded word, and it's an important word to explore. So, I started with the definitions because I think that makes sense always to start with what the dictionaries say is the way that we can all sort of hold the same understanding of a word. So, truth is a body of real things, events, or facts. They are something that are in accordance with reality. So, this is a tree. Everyone agrees this is a tree. It's in accordance with reality. Yes, that's a tree. It can be beliefs, a preposition, or a declarative sentence, which is, I believe that this is true. And what it really comes down to is actuality. Like this is what is actually is, right? And so when I think of truth, the most natural place for me to come up with an example is in nature. Nature doesn't lie, it doesn't manipulate, it doesn't deny, it doesn't go, nope, I'm not doing this. It just sort of stands there, whether it's a tree, whether it's a rock, whether it's an animal collecting food. Whatever it is in its natural organic state and it represents its own reality. And we as humans have an experience of truth in a lot of different ways. Because when we think about it, truth may be something that we believe in. It may be something that we understand is important to hold. Yet we may have some ways of fudging on that. Whether we mislead, we manipulate, we actually falsify um, uh, uh, dates on materials or events and mislead the other person. We get into arguments and debates over, are you telling me the truth? I am. No, you're not. Blah blah blah. Right. And so in the indigo frequency, I talked about, let's just say that this is truth because truth is a frequency. It's held in our bodies, right? And so this is how nature represents itself everywhere. And so what happens is we may have varying levels of the truth. And so when I hold these two here, right, we may minimalize, we may exaggerate, we may mislead, with a lot of information over here. And it can become really confusing when you're trying to figure out what it is that person is actually saying or representing. And so it shows up most often in our relationships. And so, the reason I wanted to talk about truth is that our relationship with the truth shows up in our relationships because it's felt in the body. This is felt in the body. This dissonance, this way that things move around, is also felt in our bodies, right? So there's a sense of ease when things are in alignment, and there's a sense of dis-ease when it's not. And when you think of a child, a 12-month-old, an 18-month-old looking at what's going on, in the house, this is what they know is that this is what mom or dad or the parent feels like when they're aligned. And then there's these things that they play with each other, and I'm not sure what that means. So whether we're looking at life through the children's eyes, whether we're looking at it through a sensitive or empath or energy reader, what happens is there's a lack of alignment with this truth, and it causes some dissonance, some discomfort, some pain, and even has some choices like, I don't want to be around that because it doesn't feel good when I'm around that person or in that place or in that family environment because they're all smiling, but they don't really mean it, right? So what we're really looking at is how often truth, we think we're being really, honest and open out here, and our body's giving us away because it's vibrational and it's on the inside. So in our awareness of building truth, I wanted to show you the Osho Zen card. It's the 7 of Cups, and what the 7 of Cups represents is and I think it's interesting that he calls this, projection. That can be very confusing as to what am I thinking I'm putting out there and what am I actually? And then how we have these artificial relationships where we might be ourselves playing off of somebody else's layers, right? If we go to the layers of their truth, and then we're trying to figure out who they are underneath it. And so this which is the real person and what is the real story that's going on can be really uh what's the word that comes up here? Um it can create such large levels of discomfort in both ourselves and in our children and in our partners and in our friends, where they're like, I love you, I absolutely love you, and I'm uncomfortable around you. And so this discomfort is compromised or created, or we have to put up with the discomfort because this is off. Yet we love that person, yet we're married to that person, yet we are committed to that person, yet we are raising that person, right? So our children can feel these alignments and these patterns. And so what we do as adults is we teach them to be confusing. We teach them that we have lots of layers to ourselves as to, are we going to tell the truth? Are we not going to tell the truth? Are we going to hold the truth? Or are we going to align with the truth that is inside of us? So whether it's parent child, whether it's adult to adult in friendships, you know, extended family, or whether it's in our love partnerships, what happens is that it can work really well, and it cannot work well based on the resonance of the truth. So this is always going to be inside of us, like nature, like a tree, like anything else. And if we are not in alignment with that and represent this at all times, then we are creating a relationship that works well or doesn't work well with ourselves and with others. So, what ends up happening, and this is something that kind of came up in my thinking and writing this down, is that let's say that I hang out with you and I feel all of this discomfort about you, right? Then what happens is we don't really have the words in our culture to say, the way that your resonance, the way that you're holding yourself, what you're doing right now is causing me discomfort. So what we do is we go, it's your fault if you weren't doing that. So we do blame, we do shame, we attack, we criticize, we judge. Hey, whatever you're doing is making me feel, you make me. And when someone is saying you make me, what they're usually representing is a reaction to dissonance. Right? What something's not working well in them or in you or in the two of you together, right? So when they're not in alignment, I also hear a lot, especially in close family dynamics, is, if you would just, then I could, right? If you fill in the blank, if you would just come home on time, if you would just tell me the reason why you didn't call, if you would just, then I could, which is where we're reacting to someone else's dissonance within ourselves, and we're blaming or we're putting it on the external world, which has been the focus of most of my coaching this entire year, which is, how do we start to understand what's ours and what's out there. And as we go further forward in our culture, where we're looking at some ugly truths that are coming out now and will continue to, I think we have to have a very strong relationship within ourselves as to what our truth is, right? Because if we are in attacking or denying or manipulating, or what we do all the time, self-medicating, I feel uncomfortable. And when I feel uncomfortable and I feel dissonance within me, I turn on an 8-hour Netflix. I drink alcohol. I have a drink. I'm on my second or third glass of wine. I smoke weed. I seek out sex. I shop online. These are the ways that we self-medicate when we are in that dissonant state, right? So, um, let's see. Where do I want to go with this? Our relationships have to be dependent on the truth, and we often don't know how to do that, right? And it's a complicated challenge to explore your relationship with the truth because we all have very varying levels of awareness, desire, alignment, or even pushing away, like, I don't know what to do when you're like that. Or the hard truth, which is no matter how much I align with myself, I have a hard time connecting with you. So the truth is reality, it's vibration, it's steady and it's constant. Yet living in a world where there are layers and cover-ups and behaviors of ignoring and tolerating and denying and like distracting. So our ability to hold this strong within ourselves has to be a main priority at this time, is my belief. And I'm seeing that when the truth really comes in, the truth of, hey, I'm feeling really off right now and I'm going to go take a walk and come back, is truth. And it's not pointing the finger, it's not saying something else, it's saying I have this issue and I want to deal with it. Okay, so I have 5 tips for you and I want to go through those because I want to be sensitive to time because sometimes I'm starting to talk a little bit more longer. So, first of all, go play with this. Find out what that sort of sweet spot is within you where you and your body are in a relaxed, joyful place of alignment and rest and freedom. Because when we are in truth, it's effortless, it's easy. Life just happens. We don't have to remember what we told. We don't have to have package. We don't have to layer up. We don't have to hold our body in an artificial way because what that does is it gives us a sense of self to know, hey, this is who I am when I'm in my real happy self, right? So that might be stand in the grass. Go find a river or a lake and stand close to it, throw some rocks in it, breathe, get outside in nature and find out what does it look like when my entire body is calmed down and I'm in this restful, restorative place of truth. Okay. So that's the first thing is go find it. Yeah, you got to find it. Whatever we're talking about can sound abstract until you get out in the countryside, you get out in grass, you lean up against a tree, and you start to go, who am I when I'm in my full body? Right? So then once you have this, you bring this into your daily routine. And you like when I'm in the shower, when I'm making meals, when I'm eating with my friends, or when I'm interacting in an activity with my child, or when I'm with my partner, how do I pay attention to when I'm in this relaxed place of truth, or when I'm starting to notice that I'm edgy and it doesn't feel comfortable, or when my child or my partner is showing me all the symptoms of being in dissonance, right? So what we do is the first of all we find it and then we start putting it into routines, right? And then we start the third one is we start to explore when and where it shows up. Like, hey, this was an example that came up constantly. When my children were younger. I might be in a zone with them. We might be, coloring at the table. We might be happily cooking in the kitchen. We might be outside swinging sitting in a chair and swinging in a hammock. And uh, another person would come in, and you could feel the whole dynamic change. It was almost like, and then it starts to wobble, and you realize, oh, so first I found it, then I'm going to experiment with understanding where it shows up in, or sort of when I can access it and when I can't, and then I'm going to test it out a little bit, right? Like, whoa, what happens when I do this? Oh, there it is. And you can see it in your child, or you can see it in your partner, or you can feel it in yourself. So you start to test it with different people, places, and things. My children were ecstatic about spending time at my parents' house, but not so much sitting at the table with my parents because it was tense at times. And there was a tension that would sort of move the family system into this disarray of dissonance really, really fast. And that was always during the holidays. So this is why I want to talk about this now is that there are people, places, and things that cause dissonance within us, and we want to be aware of those. Number 4, build a relationship with you in this vibration. Get to know it, find it, play with it, have conscious attention to it. Like, oh, I'm starting to wobble. Now let's bring myself back in. And so now we're challenging it and putting it in different places and then going, what do I need to do to bring it back into balance? Maybe it's breath. Maybe it's just realigning inside. Maybe it's actually taking a walk. I used to suggest to my parents that I was coaching, just tell them I'll be right back and go down to the end of the street, touch the stop sign, and come back. Anything where you just take a break until you can find out what this is, because you want to guard and cherish this relationship with the truth, and let it inform you at all times. And then number 5, pay attention to what happens with your body when there's dissonance. What does it actually do? Do you forget things? Do you stumble? Do you get a stomach ache? Do you, after hours and hours of this, do you have a headache? Do you have digestive issues? Do you have it's another good one, like a need to distract and reach for something. Like, I know that there are certain people that I do much better with after I've had a glass of wine, because my system can't deal with the constant dissonance until I sort of medicate it a little bit. And I'm like, why am I drinking wine just to hang out with this person? Right. This is all information. And so it's sort of like playing a game. First, you got to find it. Then you got to play with where does it show up? And then you got to test it. And then you got to realize, oh no, over and over and over again, it shows up with this one person, place, and thing. Sort of like on course, off course. Or I should say off course, on course, right? Or hot or cold, or Marco Polo. All these games we used to play when we were little are all about like finding out, trusting yourself, knowing that you have an inner guide that works for you at all times, and it's kick ass. It's so powerful. So, our relationship with the truth is something that will guide us anywhere. If you would like to work on this, if you'd like to sort of balance that out, you can always drop me a note, and we can get you on my coaching roster for a deep dive, 4 weeks, 6 weeks into this, and see how it feels. You can find me on denisdryden.com, and I hope you have a fantastic Sunday and last couple days of summer, and as we head into September. Take care. Bye-bye.